All right, here we go. All right, so welcome everyone to the weekly coaching call with yours truly, Omar Pinto, and my co-host, Tori Skeen. And today, I want to do a quick follow-up with Ted to see how things went and how we can help him further. So Ted, give us a little more details of what happened. Last time we spoke, it was we recognized that the rift was, or what potentially could be healed, was the relationship with your daughter via trying to repair the relationship with the girlfriend. So tell us a little bit about how that went.
Well, the idea is that I was going to call Alexandria, which is my daughter's better half, for lack of a better term. But there was no answering the phone. I think she saw that it was me calling and she didn't answer the phone. So I wasn't able to talk to her. I think they're still pretty pissed for some reason, and there's no way that I can get out of it. So I'm just kind of accepting the situation, and that's it.
Okay. All right. So, with that being said, is there something else or something along in that particular situation that we can help you with?
In that particular situation, I don't know how much more we can do, because if there's a break in the communication, there's nothing that really can be said. I think that what I'm trying to do is take my old life, let's say, and try to turn it around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is relating to my my job. Since I can't totally relate to my daughter, I think I have to think about other things right now. And the idea is that I'm of an age where I should be retired, but I'm working part-time. So I thought, well, I just leave my job off to the side and continue on with some other things. But in talking to my wife about it, we could use the money. So I have to change my perspectives a little bit. I have to get back into my job, which wouldn't be too hard, and just accept the fact that I won't get any more money. I won't get any kind of raise. Haven't gotten any raise in like 4 years, but that's just the nature of the beast.
Okay. So, there's a part of you that knows you have to stay where you're at for the moment.
Yeah, and what it is I'm 43 days without drinking. I hesitate to say thank you.
Well
I
done.
hesitate to say that I'm sober because I'm just not drinking. I'm not quite sure what sober might entail. But anyway, of these 43 days, I have not had any urges per se. What I'm trying to do is just to make sure that those urges never come again. And I think the way to do it is to change some of the ways I'm thinking. And to tell you the truth, Omar, I don't know which to change. I don't know what to change, because I don't know what leads me to go off the path that I want to be on.
Okay. So here's what I like, because a lot of times we just have to follow, what the universe is giving us. The universe is giving you a little guidance. It's giving you a little direction. And even though you would like to make some changes, see some changes, the universe right now is going, well, Ted, easy does it. So before you completely, before you were able to make amends with your daughter and her significant other, and before you quit this job, let's spend a little more time, building this foundation of sobriety. Is that what it feels like to you?
Exactly. That's what it definitely feels like to me.
Okay. Now, this is a wonderful opportunity to really, really focus. Like what you said is, you know what? I'm going to think about something else. And ideally, it's time to focus on Ted. So, what, other than, let's just say, for example, okay, for right now, we're going to leave my daughter and that relationship to the side, and I'm going to continue to work on me. I'm going to keep the job for now. And so, what would you like to work on while this is on hold, while those areas are on hold?
Need to think about that a little bit. I guess right now I need to work on my relationship with my wife, because especially since I'm pretty much homeward bound, I'm homebound, and I spend an awful lot of time with her. And we've been married for something like 44 years, so we know all the buttons to push. And sometimes those buttons get pushed and they're very effective. I think that most of my time is spent with her, and I have to make sure that I feel good about my relationship with my wife. I think while I'm waiting for, well, not really waiting, but when I'm in this holding pattern with a job and my daughter, I think it's very important to have good relations with my wife.
Okay. What would you say if I were to ask your wife, what are your biggest complaints about Ted? What would she say?
Huh. I think that she would say possibly I'm too sensitive. There's a number of things that she'll say that I don't really listen to what she says more than I listen to her tone. And I make ideas from her tone, and I react to her tone rather than what she's saying. I think she might say that I'm obsessive. I don't get interested in anything. I get obsessed with things. And I think that she might say, something along those lines, obsessive and too sensitive.
Okay. All right. So these are two areas where absolutely they require some work. And the I'm listening to her tone rather than what she says. So what is it about her tone that is so bothersome, for example?
I feel that she's talking down to me all the time.
Okay.
And this at home is the only place where that happens. Like in my job, people praise me. They always have. When I come home, I feel like I'm a dummy.
Okay. All right. Would it be fair to say that your wife can get frustrated at times?
Yeah, I'd say so. She's been through a lot. I've put her through a lot.
Okay. All right. Okay. So then it could just be that she has a lot of thoughts, feelings, and some emotions that she wants to express and has probably been unable to express herself for many, many years. Would that be accurate?
I think so, because I don't believe that we really talk about things seriously. We just kind of get over things and then try to communicate afterwards.
Okay. So here's what happens. When there's no resolve and you two just kind of get over things, then there's these resentments that just kind of start building one on top of the other. Because there's no real resolution. It's just, okay, well, instead of rehashing this argument or going back there. It's easier to just let it go and move on. But no one really lets that shit go. It's always it's always kind of there. So, this is a curious topic. So I'd love to ask, because there's 3 women in the group right now. There's actually more. I just can't see them. As Ted is describing this, as he's discussing, this his wife's talking down to him, right? She's probably frustrated. She feels as though he's not listening to her. What's the first thing that comes to mind to the women that are listening? I'd love to get a little female feedback for the women's perspective.
I'll say something to that.
Wonderful.
When you first said, Ted, that you felt like you were being talked down to, I've been told that myself before, as a female in a partnership. So it just sounded very familiar to me. I don't know if that's very helpful, but it's something that I know that I need to work on too. I think it just comes from a place of defensiveness and wanting to have my own voice heard. So maybe that's the platform that I always start from in a partnership is of a place where I come across as strong, but it's coming from a weak place.
Very good, Jackie. Thank you. Okay, Antoinette.
Yeah, I was going to say, come on, ladies, represent. I'm coming up with nothing, but I've thought of something. Because I've watched this in my mother's relationship with her husband and my stepmother's relationship with my father. I've seen it in women's relationships, one woman to another, and usually not both to each other, but one that not the henpecker, but kind of naturally may talk to the partner in a condescending tone of voice, because to me it seemed they felt threatened at some point, not maybe right this minute, but there was a point where they felt threatened, and when they're attempting to show strength, it comes off as bitching. But the one question I did have for you, Ted, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there anybody else in your life that takes that tone with you?
No.
Okay. And the one thing I wanted to add is I used to observe my stepmother do this to my father, talk in that kind of, like, in a condescending type voice. And my dad would stop listening to her. But then because when he heard the tone of voice, it bothered him, and I could tell he just kind of shut down. And he did have some hearing impairment, but he pretended he had a hell of a lot more than he had with her. He could hear me pretty good. I know my voice is a little deeper, but yeah. So the fact that he couldn't really parrot, he was responding to her tone of voice or couldn't parrot back what she was saying. She would get angry and say, "You're not listening to me." And it wasn't about he's not trying to listen. It's he's shutting down. Does that make sense?
For me, it makes total sense.
I mean, some of that could be happening there. You could be shutting down a little bit. Because I do, when if people take a strong condescending tone with me, I might shut down. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
in my experience, women tend to act like that with their partners when they have felt threatened by a partner in some way, or a father or mother or whatever. But it's there. Okay. That's just what I see.
Beautiful. Thank you, Antoinette. All right. Anyone else before I jump back in here? I see a little hand from somebody.
Yeah, I would like to say something. It's Shauna. Congratulations on your days. I've been with my husband for 10 years, and the way he was raised, like as soon as anybody starts yelling at him, he just shuts it down, doesn't listen, just closes it off, shuts it down, hears nothing. Well, I didn't know that for the longest time. And in my childhood, that's all we did was yell. There was no calmly talking about anything with anyone. It was whoever was the loudest wins. And having to deal with that, I've learned to talk calmly because I want to get across to him. And I didn't know that until he had brought it to my attention. So that's a question I pose. Have you brought it to her attention that she's doing this to you and she just ignores it? And then the second part is I feel that I get steamrolled a majority of the time in our conversations, because if it isn't his way, then it isn't right and it's completely wrong and he will hear nothing of it. And so therefore I shut down. So, I mean, that's just something to think about and something I've personally gone through. So, I mean, that was all I had for a question / possible insight.
That was fabulous, Shauna. Great insight. So, Ted, with that being said, I feel like we got some great information here. Okay. So as you were listening to this, did you get some new insights or some ideas, or, give me a little feedback of what you got from this information?
Well, one thing that's foremost on my mind right now is the shutting down part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when my wife talks to me like that, especially today, I'll just, all I hear is, nothing. I don't listen to her. I don't hear anything at all. Wow. I guess what I'm hearing is that maybe a wife type, a person type problem, but I don't know if it's that simple or not. For instance, my wife is doing something and I ask her a question about something else. She says, I can't talk to you now. I can only think of one thing at a time. I'll talk to you later on. Well, I know that when I was actively working in the display business, I had to think about more than one thing. I had to think about a lot of things at one time. And if she can only think of one thing all the time, I don't know how she ever kept employed. So this is what goes through my mind. All she told me was that, she couldn't listen to me right now because she can only think about one thing. And I'm elaborating on that whole deal. I'm thinking, well, gee whiz, I think about more than one thing. You got to be able to think about more than one thing. And it turns out, that later on she'll come to me and she'll answer my question. So the shutting down part of it, I can really relate to, because when I don't go through this, this thing of making things worse than they actually are, I don't hear a darn thing she says.
So from this information, which is great. So for people listening to this, either on the podcast or listening back, as we're listening, we're getting very similar feedback from everyone. So one of the things that really jumped out at me is this feeling of being threatened. So yeah. It's a protection if I feel threatened or she feels threatened, or it doesn't matter who feels threatened, boom, they shut down. And the easiest way to protect ourselves from getting our buttons pushed is to not be able to hear what's coming in. So if I shut down, if I'm tired of getting my buttons pushed, then this little invisible wall comes up and I just stop listening. Okay. So what's happening here is years and years of coping in a marriage where both of you have developed different coping skills, or quite possibly the same ones, right? For when you feel threatened or attacked by the other. Okay. One will either shut down, or like Shauna, for example, the real fighting begins and the loudest one wins. So it's one of two defense mechanisms. One is, this is how I was raised. When you feel threatened, you fight back. Or when you feel threatened, you shut down. Either way, it's a defense mechanism, and it disconnects you from the other person. So if you're trying to reconnect and reestablish a relationship with your spouse, this is the first thing that has to be addressed. So when she says, let's see, I'm listening to her tone rather than what she says. So what's happening here is you're waiting to be triggered, and as soon as you are, you shut down. Instead of like, okay, she wants to express herself to me. This is uncomfortable, but you know what? I am going to try and hear her. I'm going to try and decipher the message coming through this very sort of tonal dialogue. It's triggering me, but I know she's trying to communicate with me, so I'm going to do my best. Now, the other way that you can communicate with her is by saying, hey, listen, sometimes it feels like you're being condescending and you're talking down to me. And when that happens, I tend to shut down. Right. And that can also open up a brand new conversation, because that's the other thing that Shauna mentioned, that this was happening for years until she had a conversation with her husband. And they both were seeking to understand the other. So ultimately, once you recognize that this is your defense mechanism, then this is where you can come from as far as communicating this small little piece to your wife. How does that land for you, Ted?
Well, I think it lands in an area where, like, when I first mentioned something on this podcast or whatever it's going to be, I said that things weren't as straightforward as I thought they were going to be. Just this change in how I deal with conversations with my wife is really something to think about. It's going to, you don't just kind of act. I don't just kind of act on it. I have to change what it is that I feel about a situation. Now, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. When I'm saying I'm trying to find my feet, I'm trying to go on a quest to change my life. These are things that I'm going to have to look at, and they're not easy. They're not easy. They're hard on me, frankly, emotionally. It's probably the best thing for me to do, to talk to her about it, but there's always a but, I feel that I'm always the bad guy. I'm always the one that's wrong. I'm always the one that doesn't understand, and for all I know, that may be true. I don't know. But it's difficult for me to talk seriously to someone who feels that I'm always the problem. I can only anticipate what she might say if I were to tell her how I felt, and I may be totally wrong about that, but I think it's something that I have to do. just like I have to, get things together with my job and my kid, but these are not easy things to do. And I just never realized how difficult it would actually be to change. I think people can change. I think I can change. It just ain't going to be easy.
Okay, so here's the good news. Okay, women are much better at communicating than men are. That's a fact. Okay, their ability to express emotions, be vocal, and be vulnerable is on another level than men, because vulnerability for many years has been considered weakness. So the good news is, if you go to your wife from a place of vulnerability and say, honey, I recognize that I haven't been able to communicate as effectively as I would like with you over the years. And to be honest, I'm still not sure how to communicate effectively. But if I start from this place right here to ask for your help, for example, here's one that we can work on immediately. The one where you say, I shut down and I'm not listening. Let's start there. I want to try and hear you. Okay. I want to try and listen to what it is that you're trying to tell me. And I'll just give you one, I'll give you a feeling that I have that sometimes triggers me to shut down, which is I feel either that you're talking down to me or condescending, and then I just automatically kind of shut down. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of like how I'd like to start this conversation of how we could better communicate. I don't know. What do you think, honey? You also have another advantage, Ted. You could just send her this video. She's going to listen to the women talking, giving their feedback. Right? And she'll be able to say, yeah, see, Ted, this is what I'm talking about right here. Well, and that was just me saying something. She'd be like, well, he doesn't even know me. He better not be mocking me, which I'm not. All right. So ultimately, you have an advantage here that we're having a very deep conversation about intimacy, vulnerability, communication, being married. Okay. Like this is for many women a dream come true, that their husbands would actually be open to listening to criticism, to suggestions, seeking help, actually interested in bettering the marriage, bettering the communication. And so again, just you making the effort, coming from a place of seeking to understand, being vulnerable, and possibly even sharing this with her could make all the difference in the world.
I think what you're saying is I have to take some kind of action. If I want things to change, I have to take some kind of action, whether it's showing her this video or actually talking to her. She's on a video conference right now. When we're both done, maybe I should just bring it up. I think if I were to talk to her one-on-one personally, I think that would be better than showing her a video. But
I agree.
I would want to make sure that, well, not necessarily, how can I say that? I'd really like to follow up on this with you, maybe in a couple of weeks or something like that.
Absolutely. So for today, let's make it very digestible. And so less is more. So you could simply just say, honey, on my video call, okay, which is a coaching call, right, I was asking for help on how to better communicate with my wife. And so they suggested that I come and, just be open with you and just say, hey, listen, I've had a tough time communicating with you probably most of our marriage, and I would like to change that. I'm not quite sure how, but this is the first step, right? And one of the things that I know that you are that you do not appreciate about me is that when you're talking to me, I will shut down. So I will make a much more concerted effort to listen to you, to hear you, to try and hear you versus be defensive or threatened or feel threatened. Something along those lines. You come up with it in your own terms. But I would say that would be the first opening, and then just let her reply.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'm, just as you're talking, I'm thinking that maybe once I'm able to approach this and, make moves to resolve it, that may be the answer for dealing with a lot of my other issues as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Once we recognize that we have a built-in coping mechanism to protect us from being attacked or feeling threatened or feeling talked down to on any level. Okay. Whenever that comes up, I'm pretty sure you'll just shut down regardless. If you're feeling attacked or threatened or talked down to.
I'd have to agree, 100% with what you say, but sometimes I have to go a different way with my emotions, frankly. If I feel like shutting down, maybe that's the worst thing that I could do. Maybe I have to not shut down at all and try to listen and say something, not just let it pass, but to actually say something.
I think we just hit gold. Is there anyone here? I've got a thumbs up. Does anyone else have a thumbs down, or does everybody have a thumbs up? That felt like gold right there. You got it, Ted. This is it's all about baby steps. Okay, how do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay, so just the same approach. Easy does it. And then we'll meet again next week. And you can tell us either next week or the following week. You can tell us how it went. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Omar,
right.
You're great. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you. And I appreciate you coming on, right? And this is hard work and you're doing it. So I appreciate it. All right. So who is next? We still got plenty of time. We'll check in with Ted in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, who is struggling with something? Who can we help? There are 12 people on the call. You can just turn on your mic, drop it in, type it in. I'm glad everyone's doing so well. It's incredible. Wow, everybody's doing fantastic. Okay, Antoinette, she's pointing at Leo. She's saying, Leo, do you want a little more help before you start the new gig?
With what we talked about at the beginning of the shift, at the beginning of the meeting, is part of it. So another job has come up not sure if I told you this or not. Another job has come up. One is a counselor, and I put in for it. I don't know if I'll get it. Last night I was playing What If. I don't even know if I'll even be considered, but my group leader told me to put in for it. And I did. And it's going to be much more involved, because if I do get this, then all of a sudden I've got 10 or 15 people, guys in my program, guys in my group, that I'm going to be responsible somewhat for start to finish for 90 days, where you're going to go with it. I'm going to be much more part of if I get this, I'm going to be much more part of the recovery now. I'm going to be much more hands-on, much more involved. Part of me doesn't know that I've got the skill to remember everybody's file, and remember everything right away, and part of me too is, and I shared this last night at the meeting, say I do get this job, say, people start to talk to me, and it's because kids a lot of them are young now, 20, 25 to 30 years old. A lot of their stuff will come from parents, like my stuff comes from my parent, and so, they'll share to me about, maybe their dad or something. Now, the parents will want to know how their kids are doing. So, like, the dad will call in. And so, no, I got to talk to the dad. And I already hate you for what you've done to him. I already hate you because of the shit that you're bringing up inside of me. You know what I mean? Yet I have to be professional and put everything to the side to help out your child, And so part of the skill to be able to do all that, and maybe it's my journey, I'm going to learn it. Maybe I won't get this. I've got no idea. You know what I mean? But I asked last night, how do I be able to listen to someone based on the events of that situation without ripping my stuff up too? Because I can hate anybody instantly. I can't love anybody instantly. I mean, I love people now. And this place, Sobriety Engines, helped me to grow with that. And I know you don't like the word hate, Omar, but that's me. So I can really dislike someone intensely right away, especially if I can feel some of the same pain that they've done to somebody else. And I don't know that I've got the skill to distance that away. Okay, that's it. I think that's it.
Okay. So, you know what, the word that just keeps coming up and coming up and coming up and coming up as you're talking is judgment. And it's really, really hard to be objective. If you're stuck in judgment, because here's the thing, when the word hate comes up, right? There's this hate and rage and anger, resentment, fear. So it's all of these really negative emotions, and together these emotions are drivers. So there's two ways we approach the world, okay, with two sets of drivers. So imagine you're a computer, okay, and each computer has two different sets of drivers. One computer has hate and rage and anger and resentment and fear and bitterness and judgment, and the other one has love and gratitude and appreciation and experience and enthusiasm. Okay. Each what I just described are sets of drivers. It's what motivates us. It's the energy, the fuel that we use when we go out into the world. And I'm sure, as you've learned this before as well, I either go into the world from a place of fear, or I go in from a place of love. And so ultimately, I have to go into every situation. I don't have to. Ideally, I would want to select the drivers of love and compassion and understanding and non-judgment. Because when I do that, it immediately comes right back to me. As I am pouring this love and compassion, understanding and empathy and care into this situation, regardless of what I know of the situation, the only thing that can come back to me is that same energy that I put out. So ultimately, what it boils down to is, at the end of this conversation, what do I want to receive? Because what I put out, I'm going to get right back, right? You know what to do. You have it inside of you. You've lived through an abomination in your life, multiple. And so with that comes this wonderful gift of compassion and understanding and care for anyone who is suffered. Have you ever seen the movie The Shack? Okay. So Leo, before you start this other gig, I suggest you watch the movie The Shack. Okay. It is probably one of the most powerful movies I've ever seen about forgiveness. Okay. And so ultimately, it's not so much what's been done, what happened, what the situation is. The only thing I have to decide is, what are my drivers? What am I showing? How am I showing up? Because I have a choice. And number one, if I love this kid, if I want nothing but the best for this kid that I'm working with, then I'm going to put all my own human thoughts, feelings, memories to the side. And I'm going to focus only on what's the best interest for my client, for my patient. How's that land?
See, that's what I have to do. That's what I have to do, because I want to help. I want to help somebody else. But what I don't think, I don't have this skill right now. I don't have this skill right now. Once
I'm pretty sure you
he
do.
tells me of his victimization, I become victim now.
Uh-huh.
Before I make that call or have to speak to that person. So they might be doing much better than I am with their journey. You know what I'm saying? So as soon as I hear it, when do I stop staying always in victim mode? So there's a good question.
So I've recommended the drama triangle. Have you researched the drama triangle?
No.
Okay, so you have two assignments: the drama triangle and the shack. So there's three components to the drama triangle: victim, rescuer, aggressor. The idea is you have to pull yourself out, Leo. Okay. The way I kind of paint it to my own clients is, we basically need to get a Navy SEAL team, all right, and send them on an extraction mission. And we have to get Leo out of the drama triangle. He's currently incarcerated in the drama triangle. We need to set a team of Navy SEALs to extract him, pull him out, because in there he's only got three options: victim, rescuer, aggressor. And you've been one of those at one point in your life. Depending on the situation, you fulfill one of those roles. The only way to not fulfill one of those roles is to extract yourself from there and create a brand new role for yourself.
What's that role called?
Well, we could start easy. And right now you're the coach. Okay. You are healing. You're a survivor. So we can baby step this. Ultimately, what you want to get to is hero, but I don't want to go there too quickly because it gets convoluted with rescuer. The hero is for you, Leo.
Yeah.
Not for anybody else.
Yeah.
The hero's journey is about you. It's not about saving. You survived the trauma that you went through. You overcame. And you became someone else. And so until I can really get very clear, right? I'm the hero in my own story, right? I am an adult. I am a loving, caring, nurturing individual that has survived some horrific things and is here to help others go through theirs. So you are a coach, you are a guide, you're a healer, you're a messenger. And so now I have a new role. I just simply have to identify with the role that feels the best for me. Of any of those, did any of those feel like the logical next step to pulling you out of the drama triangle?
Is patience in the drama triangle? I always keep asking you for patience.
Patience for what?
Wanting to get out of this once and for all.
I never asked for patience because what
I know you told me that. I remember.
Right, because here's the thing. Trauma happens in an instant. Why shouldn't getting out of it be the same? Why do I have to wait for that shit? Aren't you done suffering?
A lot of me is, but I don't think all of me is. That's fair.
So what you could say out loud is, universe, I am done learning through suffering.
Universe, I hope I'm done learning through suffering.
I'm done learning through suffering.
I'm done learning through suffering.
And now I would like to learn through love, joy, and happiness.
And now I would like to learn through love, joy, and happiness.
It's as simple as that, Leo. Trauma happens in a second. In a second, it happens. But the healing process, that needs to last for 10 years? No. When it makes sense, it makes sense. I just have to allow myself to receive the information. And once I allow myself to receive the information, I have to allow myself to integrate the information. That's it. That's all I have to do. Receive, integrate, allow. I resist for a reason. The trauma, the victim role serves me. It gives me an identity. It's simple as that. Well, if I'm not a victim, then what am I? I'm a guide.
Hero.
I'm a hero.
When I talked to my therapist last week, which was a good thing, I hadn't talked to him in a while, and I told him about this. He says, "You're because it's like not it's a dollar above minimum wage." He goes, "You're not doing this for the money. You're doing this because it's the right thing for you to do." You know, and I think I'm going to be okay. I'm not there yet. Like I'm definitely not there yet, but I'm a lot better than I was even as a coach a couple of years ago, because like this room, especially yourself, especially, you've taught me a lot to trust. See, I get to think in this room, when I bare all and vulnerable in front of everybody here, I get to actually think without as much self-hate and that. I get to think and just sit in a quiet place and think, and it's kind of cool. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of cool.
I got an idea. Since the self-hatred and the anger is so closely correlated, let's shift and create an image of a warrior. Did you ever see the movie 300?
Yeah.
Remember what they did to the kids in the beginning?
Been a while, no.
They threw the kids out right as they turned into their teen years. I think they were like either 10 years old or 13 years old or something like that. And they threw them out into the wilderness. And they could only come back when they were like 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to feed themselves, clothe themselves, warm themselves, feed, they had to survive. Okay. So for some people, that would be the cruelest form of punishment that you could do to a child. But how do they come back? They come back as Spartan warriors. Leo, you are a Spartan warrior, my friend.
I got some skills.
You have some skills. All you have to do is every time you go into this situation, any situation, imagine yourself in war gear as a Spartan. Strong, experienced. You have weathered and survived some of those most brutal life events anyone could survive, and you are still here. Not only are you here, but you're here to save people's lives. So suit up, my friend. We don't have time to weep or show weakness. We show up strong. You break down after. You get off the call, you curl up in a ball, and you cry yourself to sleep. But you show up as a Viking, as a warrior.
That's good, because how I feel is how I feel. And if I don't process it and get rid of it, I'm going to carry it. So I thank you for that. I needed to hear that. I get to be shitty after I hang up. I get that. And that's good. That helps me.
Leo, this is the same conversation I have with myself all the time. Right before I turn on the Zoom call, you are a fucking warrior. You deal with your shit off camera.
I will.
My man. All right. Whew. I wasn't expecting such a powerful close. That was amazing. Anyone want to chime in? Tori, I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
I mean, I just want to say I love you. I do love you, Leo. I'm so grateful for you, and you are a fucking warrior. So, and you're gonna do great things and change a lot of people's lives. So, just want to give you some encouragement.
What about you, Antoinette?
Leo knows how I feel. I love you, Leo. And as I was telling you in the chat this morning, or maybe it was last night, I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of you lately. You I don't really know how to put this. You sell yourself short, and I know why you do it. I mean, I've done it. I remember with this company I was working for, going through a year's worth of, we called it trauma camp, but several of us were selected, I guess a couple from each county all over the state. And that's all we learned was trauma training and dealing with and so forth. And so I understand where it's coming from. Okay. But not only was none of that your fault, but you have already punished yourself so long, for so much, for something that isn't even your fault. You know, when I get my camper, I am coming to Canada to find you, and we'll talk some more. But I love you, and you know, if people like Omar Pinto and Tori Skeen were telling me I was smart or I knew something, I'd start thinking I knew something. You know, these guys can't be wrong, can they? Can they?
No, not really.
All these guys? No, no. All right, love y'all. Oh, hey, Missy, you snuck out on me last night. Now, no feedback, nothing. But we'll talk.
Antoinette, I love you. And there's no question about it, right? Every time you share, it's gold. So you sell yourself short. I'll just remind you of that as well. Okay. Amazing shares. It's always from the heart and a solid gold. All right, everyone. So much love. So much love to all of you. The idea is to spread love and joy everywhere you go. It's how we fix this world, one person at a time. Love and joy. We'll see you next week. Jackie, great to see you.